podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear listener. You are tuning in to yet another preview show of the Dockers debate, which means tomorrow's game will probably be off, as we have a habit of doing. As always, I am your host for today's show, Michael Avery, and I am with my grommet to my Wallace. It's Rob Grant.
Watch out.
We no longer have our penguin with the rubber glove on his head. That was from the last show. That was Darius. So for this week, we have Eastbourne Town aficionado expert and, my God, some of the greatest stats and tables I've ever seen in football. It's Mr. Chris Pryor. How are we, Chris?
I'm not so bad. So yourself?
Very well, very well. And I'll tell you what, so many people now will be going at Chris Pryor later on to see all these stats I'm talking about. And I'll tell you what, as I said just a minute ago, if you do get any jobs in football because of this, we'll take 5% of your commission. See this as a dragon's den. But I'll tell you what,
5% of nothing is not a lot.
Well, you know, exactly. Good spirits, we'll have 5% of them.
So Chris, before we get going, you're not from around here, are you?
I was going to say you're the most northern Eastbourne fan I've ever met.
I was going to say, what gave you that idea? Well spotted. No, I'm not an Eastbourne native. I can't say I grew up dreaming of playing on the Saffrons because I didn't.
Yeah, well, do you know what? It's actually quite interesting. We went down there. I don't know if you heard our show or listeners want to go back and have a listen. We actually think that's quite a nice little ground. And sometimes, you know, when you go to little non-league clubs, and I always sort of say when I go and watch the non-league games, you know, like I wouldn't mind ending my career at a club like this, or I wouldn't mind, you know, having a little kick about. Eastbourne Town's one of those where I think, do you know what? I wouldn't mind having a little kick about around here on a Saturday. Nice little ground, nice little area, nice bowling green nearby. Chips not great, if I'm honest.
No.
But there's room for improvement. So Chris, we've got you on. Give us a chat about Eastbourne. How are we getting on?
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think it's been a good season for us so far. I mean, we're not far off you in the league table. I think we're both sort of middling. We're in that sort of middle group, aren't we? We obviously, you know, we came up with, I'd say, low expectations. We came up last year with not a brilliant budget, and we didn't get off to a great start. We kind of snuck up through the playoffs. We went on like an 18-game unbeaten run towards the back end of the season to get into
the worst sneaking you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah,
It's like sneaking with neon signs pointing at you.
Yeah, it was like rampaging. But yeah, and obviously we came in. The budget's still not brilliant, which our manager's been on BT Radio, you know, alluding to earlier this week in a good interview. So check that out. Yeah, so we thought, well, if we can stay up, that'd be great. That was kind of where I came into the season thinking, and we've never really looked in any great danger. We've never been safe, but we've never been in any great danger. Whereas I know yourselves, you got off to a belting start and you've never looked in danger.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. I mean, we've said it before, and we've had Trevor Nell on from his podcast talking about standard of the league, and it's no disrespect to this league whatsoever, because as silly as it sounds, we like Skeffel. You know, it's a bit more local. We like Skeffel for the travel, but you know, we knew a few more of the teams, a bit more local. We knew a bit more about them and what they did. But we are finding there's a bit more sort of grandeur with this division. You know, you're part of the Ifmea now. No disrespect to the Southern Counties. We like the Southern Counties, but you know, this is really, you know, you're one or two divisions away now from the National League. So you know, you're up there. But as you kind of say there, I genuinely thought that the teams who went up may have struggled a little bit more than they are doing. Touch wood, we don't all go on dramatic losses, but you know, yourselves, Erith Town, Deal as well. Deal had a bit of a rough start, but you know, they're basically where we thought they would be. But again, the standard. How have you seen the standard of the league compared with previous expectations? Similar to what we say?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I don't recall many games where we've been completely outclassed. There's not been many at all. Deal, when we went to Deal away, I mean, we got beat 4-1, but that was never really a 4-1 kind of game. And I'm not going to lie, the route to the game, we had a bit of a breakdown in terms of the buses and stuff like that. So it wasn't ideal preparation. But even when Sittingbourne came to town a couple of weeks ago, it was around Christmas time, I suppose. They only won by 1. You know, and they're doing really, really well this year. And as I said, their FA Trophy run is testament to the way they're going. So to hold them to 1 goal was good. Margate away, we did get battered, but I wasn't there that day, but we got battered. So beyond that, though, we've been competitive. We've only lost one of the last 6 as well, and that was to Three Bridges, who've only just gone back home after playing in Chatham, I think, and they've been absolutely flying since they returned to Jubilee Field. So, and we lost by the odd goal there. So we're never out getting outclassed, which is encouraging considering again we've not had massive player turnover. It's
Yeah.
broadly a similar group to the group that got promoted last year.
Yeah. Rob, you're one of the ones who hates the standard of the league.
Thanks.
I'm only kidding. But I mean, just looking back to the game ourselves when we played against Eastbourne, I mean, Erith are currently in 11th, Eastbourne are 13th. I think there's a point or two in between it. We've just finished writing the programme, so we write all the we have to sit and compare notes and all this kind of stuff. Eastbourne was one of those that, when we were there, Rob, let's not lie, he's had a good season so far, a lot of clean sheets, but there was a goalkeeping error, and we never really got into the game, did we?
No, but I think the other thing about the Eastbourne game was we lost it right in the dying minutes of the second half, and we've done that a lot this season. We've been doing fine, we've been winning our battles, we've been giving everybody a game, and then it's a heartbreaker 5 minutes before the end or whatever. And then we give away a goal and we've lost the game. Admittedly, Tuesday's game against Sittingbourne turned out that we did the same to them a minute later. So we actually managed to claw some points from that. But it's indicative of the standard of this league that every minute counts. When 10 minutes to go, nobody shakes hands and says, "Well, we'll call it a day then." They keep going and they keep going to the end, and that's what I've found. And I think that's the difference. I think in the SCEFL, there'll be a lot of clubs who will, on 10 minutes to go, they'll shake hands and say, "All right, let's all go home now." And it seems that way. So if you're on top, you stay on top.
Would you say the same there, Chris, about that kind of thing, like compared to the division you was in last year?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I mean, prime example was the Boxing Day game we had with East Grinstead at home, and we were all over them. We battered them. Their keeper really should have been sent off for a last man foul. And then in injury time, they got a corner, which shouldn't have been a corner. Even their players were sort of shaking their heads about it. And then what happens? Corner comes in, overhead kick. I can't remember if it was Tig who got it. Overhead kick in the 93rd minute. And I was like, the only time they got the ball in the box, really, and it was 1-1. And you're just like, oh, you've really got to keep your wits about you. I'm surprised, actually, about what you say about that, and I trust your word. Obviously, you guys know your stuff. Because I looked at, the Sittingbourne result, I remember just typing into my spreadsheet not long ago and saw you got a late equaliser and thought, oh, that's good. And then I looked at your playoff run last year, and obviously a lot of late goals for you guys in that.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the point that Rob was making, and you are right as well. I think the thing was with us last year is that we kept going to the end. Like you never wrote Erith off. Like in the playoff game, like you say, the Kent Senior Trophy, the winning goal again the other day. So, yeah, I think the thing is, it was just like as a kind of consensus across SCEFL as a whole that games are pretty wrapped up by 60, 70 minutes. And basically, if they're close, they sort of tend to stay as draws, or like you say, like what we did, we'll just keep going at you. And I think, like we say on this podcast, and everyone's going to listen to this and think, oh, he's just sort of like towing the company line, if you will, about how great it is. But that's one of the things when we say there's that unique Erith spirit about it compared to other teams, is that we genuinely don't know when we're beaten. Like we also as Rob, we went in the Ashford game. I think Rob won it. We were 2-0 up, went 3-2 down, and then equalised in like the 94th minute as well. It was, there's all that to it. But just looking at the league table now, like we do, it's not, yes, okay, you can say there's only a point between it, so it sounds obvious, but there's not too much between it in the sense of where the actual points are won and lost and drawn. Sometimes you get teams who might sort of win loads of games, but also lose loads of games, and a team who draw loads have got similar points. But if you look with, Deal was a great example. But there we go. But if you look at Erith, for example, Erith they've won 10, drew 7. Eastbourne have won 10, drew 6. You've lost a couple more because you've played a couple more. Goals again practically identical, 46 for Erith and 45 for Eastbourne. But you've let in a lot more goals. And one thing that again will say with the Erith Town team, we noticed this the other day when we was doing the programme, from 9th all the way down to 22nd, Erith Town, the only team with a positive goal difference. And that is actually...
You've got the fifth best defence in the league.
Exactly. So, I know you're not like an Erith aficionado, if you will. We'll go back to Eastbourne. Why are we letting in so many goals?
I don't think. Well, I think again, it's kind of what I said about the budget doesn't help. Certainly, we are punching above our weight. I think a little bit in this league, and also I wouldn't say we're letting in a disproportionate number of goals, relative to our
The position,
standard. Yeah. Whereas I think, like I said, the only teams who've got a better defence than you guys are the top four.
Yeah.
And they're the top four by a stretch, So, I mean, we've got our goalkeeper, Chris Winterton, is a bit of a town legend. He's been with the club for ages now, and I think he's made maybe one or two mistakes, but nothing that jumped off the page. But yeah, I don't really know. I think it's just a bit of a quality thing, and we've never really, like I said, it's the same group pretty much who got us promoted.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have got some...
And in the nicest way, again, like with no due respect, because I think with Erith, the expectation again, similar to Eastbourne, was just stay up. So I'm not sure. Again, you guys down there are a lot. We don't know any inside information, but again, I think that it could be a bit similar. Like, well, I don't mind if we let in 5 goals this week, as long as we kind of stay where we are, kind of thing. It's when we start conceding lots of goals and start sliding, we will massively panic. But all the time we're 13th, and there's a lot of clear blue water between us and the relegation zone. We'll just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's the thing. I think Jude said this week he wants maybe 3-4 more wins to kind of see us home, which in 14 games doesn't sound it doesn't sound like it's impossible to do.
I think not mathematically. I think those in mid-table are safe. You don't want to tempt fate. There's a lot of ground for that bottom 4 to make up, and quickly. Particularly
given to the form some of them are in. I mean, Lancing, for example, have been on the end of some absolute shellackings in recent weeks. Their goal difference is... I mean, it's the goal difference again, I know they're big on the SNLF podcast, Trevor Nell, etc. They're and Mike, they're always talking about goal difference and how it tells a story. And I think, Herne Bay's is -23, Lansing's -38, and ours is -3. And yours is +14. You're absolutely sound, but
That's, we said on the last show that any plus goal difference when you're around mid-table this season, it's a point, isn't it? Really, it's a point in itself.
Oh, big time, absolutely, yeah.
Rob, you're the man who looks at the results. Let's have a little run in of how their results have been.
Well, I was actually just going back to that point. If you look at Littlehampton, who are in 19th, so they're the top of that bottom 4, if you like. They're on 18 points. They've got to double their points tally, and they still won't have caught up to what's going on in mid-table. So, as far as the way it looks to me, is those 4 are the 4 that are going to stay there unless something really drastic happens. So yeah, I think everybody in that midsection there is from kind of 15th up is probably safe because it's just beyond catching at the moment.
I think I'd probably, if I was having to draw that line anywhere, it'd probably be between East Grinstead and Herne Bay. So 16th, they're on 31 points, only on 24 games. I mean, that's the other dynamic, isn't it? The teams who have lost a lot of games recently, Beckenham have only played like once or twice since the end of December, I think. Or
they were called off again the other day, weren't they?
Yeah, and East Grinstead's very similar. It's
East Grinstead have only played 24, so they've got a ton of games in hand. So yeah, drawing that line between East Grinstead and Herne Bay is probably about fair because everyone else is, apart from Hythe, and even then the way they're playing, I can't see them winning all those games in hand at all. So it's probably a safe bet. It's just looking at. I normally talk through some of the numbers, but actually I was really interested in the stats. I'd love to be able to show the stats, but the stats that you sent through. How do you think the two teams compare? Because that's the most interesting thing to me. Because looking at the table is one thing, and we can sit there and go, well, okay, there's only a point between us, but we do have a couple of games in hand on you, and a couple of games in hand on most of the people above us. So, and I think that. And I've said this before on other shows, I think that contributes to our ring rustiness, is that when games are cancelled and you're not playing that competitive match, then there's another week before you play the next game or whatever, then it just takes time for them to get back up to speed. I think if the Sittingbourne game showed us anything, it's that they can do it and they can get back up to those levels. So I'm confident about those couple of games, 2 or 3 games in hand, and that we'll start to get back up there and start to nudge towards those playoff places. But how do you think, with your fantastic graphics that you sent us, that the two teams compare?
Well, like I said, I mean, the key thing for me with regards to Erith is the defence is just so solid. You know, to have the 5th best defence in that league when the top 4 are so far clear of everyone else in terms of points and stuff, I think is testament to the work that's going on there. The form guide I'm just discounting for now, for the simple fact of your fixtures in the last 6 have been horrific.
True.
Yeah, we've had a really tough run.
Yeah.
I mean, we've played the top 3 in the last 3 games.
Yeah, I know, and to be fair, in your last 5, you've played 4 of them have been against the top 4 because you've played Burgess Hill twice. So it's and they've not, they're going absolutely brilliant. So no, so I'm discounting the form guide for now. In Town, we got off to a decent start away from home. We've been getting a lot of draws, more draws, and we've drawn 3 of the last 4. So I don't know. I think you'll win it. I think it'll be maybe 2-1 Hythe, maybe 2-0 actually. It's going to be a tight one.
You don't see it as more evenly matched than that? Because the way I look at it is when you get teams, forget the games in hand, because that's nothing to do with form or anything. That's to do with the weather and so on and so forth. So that's nothing to do with form or anything like that. But there's only literally there's a point between us, and other than that, if you look at wins, draws, losses, there's a cigarette paper between us. So
True, but I mean, you are good at home as well. I mean, we're not bad away, but you are really good at home. You showed that against Sittingbourne the other night. You held Ramsgate at only 1-0. I wasn't there, but
yeah, and we had three or four one-on-one opportunities to score that we didn't put away. So we were our own worst enemies in that respect. So
yeah, and let's have it right. Many teams will lose to Ramsgate this season, and many teams have. So
I think for me, I don't know if you've seen Ramsgate this year, Chris, or not, but I mean, I've seen Sittingbourne now. I've seen Burgess Hill. Obviously, saw Dill, Margate. We've seen either home or away. We've seen them, and okay, maybe like for example, East Grinstead and Eastbourne Town. We've only seen them once, but for me, Ramsgate are just an absolute cut above. Like from every team I've seen, there's only been 2 times this Erith don't get played off the park often at all, and they definitely don't get played off the park for effort. And sometimes you've just got to admit some teams are better than you. And I think that when we played against 2 times this season, it happened was Farnham in the cup, wasn't it? Got your name, Chris? Wasn't it, Chris Farnham? And also Ramsgate away. I thought Ramsgate did an absolute job on us. And again, not that we played badly, but they were just a good side. And Rob, we always laugh and joke he missed the Ramsgate away game, but even you have to admit and even though we kept him out for so long and defended so resolutely against Ramsgate, they are a good side, aren't they?
oh yeah, well organised, strong, quick. All the cliches, but and yeah, they were really good. They were good value. I thought we were tremendous on the night, and it was an absolute heartbreaker to concede in the 90-plus 3rd minute. But like I said earlier on, it's that playing to the end, playing the old cliche, you play to the whistle. We were architects of our own downfall with a bit of stoppy defending, giving away a free kick, and then not really setting ourselves up properly because we're probably tired. It was a hard game, very hard game.
Yeah, Chris, going back to our game at the weekend, where if I know you said that obviously you might predict or see an Erith win, but who's your danger man? Who do Erith look out for? If Eastbourne are going to win the game and go against what you think's your little prediction, how are they going to do it?
yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think a draw's likely. Actually, to be fair, so let's go with that. I'll nail my colours draw. Because I was thinking about this last night. Your defence is excellent. No clean sheet. Well, you've kept 8 clean sheets, but I don't think you've kept one since November.
Yeah,
So,
we don't concede a lot, but like you say there, we've had a 1-0 against Ramsgate, 1-0 against Sittingbourne, or 1-0 against Burgess Hill. Even the Stein community game was a 5-1. So yeah, they do. It's a tight defence, but it's not watertight.
yeah. In terms of danger man, I mean, of recent weeks, one of our top scorers has actually been our centre half come right back, Nathan Hover. He got 5 in 3 at one point.
Jesus.
So
Cool.
that's
Imagine
He's
his
on
goal bonus.
he's on 6 for the season. And I was looking at your goals. So you got James Ding and James Hull both. Well, one's on 12, one's on 10. Then you got Waters.
Well, James Hull won't be there. He's moved on to pastures new. So
Oh, right.
James Ding, aka James Stone, he will be the number 9, I would imagine. And we got Marcin Ruder as well, who's I believe Polish midfielder. He's the one who scored against you in the first game by standing on your keeper basically when he was throwing it out.
Yes, we all remember that one.
Yeah, so that was him, and he was he's having a good season, playing sort of number 10 slash left in the midfield. So yeah,
You don't seem to have Ding has gone 12 goals, and then everybody else is kind of in single digits. But it's spread out. Once again, it's one of those things where you got a 2, a 3, a 4, a 6, and 8. There's the goals are spread out. You don't seem to have that one single danger man that everyone needs to be careful of, and that's in some ways that's a good thing because it means that anyone can pop up at any time, like you did against us at your place, and slip one in.
Yeah, and it was actually Marcin Ruder's shot from the left that kind of went across the face and was tapped in at the back stick as well. So he, I can't say he likes playing against you. It's a sample size of 1, so limited at best. So
100% record.
Exactly. It's the only way to look at these things. 100% record.
Absolutely. But I was going to say, Chris, you've originally had your thought of a Erith win. Now it's a draw. What do you reckon the score's going to be? Are you coming down or are you coming up for the game, or how well do Eastbourne travel?
I mean, not in huge numbers, but not particularly small. I mean, when we went up to Croydon a few weeks ago, we had I think there was about 6 or 7 of us. It's not massive. It's a long ass way, to be fair. We've got. Am I coming up? I'm hoping to, but I can't guarantee it. I've got a young family. Time is of the essence, and all that sort of stuff. So, and in terms of a score prediction, we'll go 1-1.
1-1. Have you got splinters in your backside where you're sitting on the fence? We've got a mate called Chris who does that.
No, it's not that. It's just we draw a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, what do you reckon the score's going to be, mate?
I think we'll be buoyed from the Sittingbourne result, and I can see us going 3-1.
I can see it being a comfortable 2-0, and it will be our first clean sheet since November, thanks to our friend Chris who provided that, and I didn't know that information.
No, I've said that. Yeah, I've kind of made it so.
Kiss of death.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said at the start about, well, now we're prepping for the game, it's going to be off. The amount of times I've put up game of the weekend or something on Twitter, and then it's just gone.
Rob.
I was going to say in the SCFL particularly, like Crawley Down Gatwick must hate me because every time I put their games up, they get canned. Bexhill's the same.
Listen, the amount of hours of my life that I've spent putting together the programs and getting them sent to print and everything, and then going and collecting them and all that stuff, and then the game's off, and you're sat there with a box of programs going, well, what am I going to do with these?
Yeah, God, I don't envy you.
But one thing I will say is, we do these preview show for a bit of fun. It's always nice to catch up with other fans and just to get their thoughts on the game, how it's going to go. One thing I will say, Chris, not sure if you've seen our stats or we might be putting it out later on. For January, we've had over 2,000 downloads of the Dockers debate, which puts us up to how many did I say it was now, Rob? Over
1,000 and something.
Over 29,000 downloads of the show since our inception. So, yeah, anyone who stands there goes, who is that knob who stands there talking into his phone? Well, clearly people listen to him. Or it automatically downloads because they've put their download feature on by accident. But, yeah, no, just a big thank you to all those who download and listen to the show. Obviously, all money from revenue goes towards food banks. So even if you don't like our content, download because it helps feed families who need some support. Chris, you've obviously played your part as well by coming on the show and getting some downloads in. So you coming on has helped out as well, mate. And we hope we've enjoyed having you on.
Thank you very much for having us, guys. Thanks for the invite and all the best for the rest of the season.
And do you want to do a little quick plug? Because honestly, mate, your stats are incredible, the layout and everything. so at least plug your X or Instagram handle or whatever it is you use.
Sure, yeah, it's Twitter. It's _ Chris Pryor, PRIOR. You wouldn't believe the number of people who get that wrong. So, yeah, that's where you'll find me. And it's usually SEFL and Isthmian stats, occasionally a bit of Man City stuff, but rarely.
Would you do
Yeah.
bespoke if we asked, if someone was to say, "Oh, you don't mind doing like a Yeovil Town one, do you?"
Funny enough, I've started looking at this Conference South just because it's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
I have been known to do the odd bespoke stuff, as long as it's not too time consuming. But
Cough Millwall, do them.
yeah, that's what quite a lot of people say, isn't it? Cough Millwall.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Chris, thanks a lot for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
Might see you tomorrow. All the best.
All the best, mate.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.